Chapter 273. Li Fuchen is back? Gao Changtian and Wu Qingmei received the news at the same time. Half a year ago, the two of them finally got together. Speaking of which, it was all thanks to Li Fuchen that they could be together. Had it not been for Li Fuchen's presence to suppress Yuan Tian and the others, Wu Qingmei might not have been able to see through him. Prodigies were always eye-catching. Between a 5-star bone frame and a 4-star bone frame, most would choose the 5-star bone frame. He is now considered an influential figure in the continent. Gao Changtian sighed. Wu Qingmei nodded. Li Fuchen's figure appeared in her mind. Towards Li Fuchen, she had complicated feelings. It wasn't that she didn't admire him, but she was very clear that Li Fuchen was like a cloud, no one could catch him. Even to follow his footsteps would be extremely difficult. But the one with the most complicated feelings was Guan Shui. Li Fuchen's rise was too inexplicable. Before losing his talent, Li Fuchen's talent could only be said to be okay. Then he suddenly lost his talent and recovered it. It seemed that as time went by, his talent was getting stronger and stronger, until it was now earth-shattering and famous in the Eastern Lin continent. I will not regret it. Guan Shui's eyes flashed with determination. Her talent wasn't weak. With a 4-star soft-water bone frame, she was 90% certain that she could step into the heaven realm. If she had the opportunity, she might even progress to the reincarnation realm. By then, she could live her life as she wished. Junior brother Li really amazes the world with a single brilliant feat. Chen Fanghua lamented. Her cultivation progress wasn't slow and was already at the 3rd level of the Earth realm. But compared to Li Fuchen, the gap was huge. If there were no accidents, the gap would only get bigger in the future. Li Fuchen's return seemed to have caused an uproar in the Zhanglan sect's disciple zone. Almost everyone was discussing Li Fuchen. Sword Maniac, Sword Tiger, and Emotionless Sword didn't need to be mentioned. These people were famous for a long time and no one was surprised. But Li Fuchen only rose in recent years. Many of them watched him grow step by step to where he was today. Especially the top 10 outer sect disciples, all of them had complicated feelings. Zhao Wujin's residence. Elder Yu Hua was here too. Li Fuchen, you are now an influential figure, but do not be dragged down by these false reputations. A false reputation without actual strength is ultimately just a bubble. You have to work harder. Yu Hua reminded Li Fuchen. Li Fuchen nodded. Elder Yu is right. Fuchen will not slack off. Both Zhao Wujin and Yu Hua had helped him before, and they were the upper echelons that he was closest to in the Azure Water sect. Zhao Wujin smiled. Yu Hua, I think you're worrying for nothing. His willpower isn't much lower than yours. He knows what he's doing and what's most important to him. Yu Hua chuckled. That's true. Too much concern leads to confusion. If Li Fuchen was able to pass the 6th mystic martial door and become the first person to enter the 7th mystic martial door, the door of earth, how could his spirit will be weak? It was at least at the heaven realm. All in all, those famous East Unicorn continent absolute prodigies, each of them beyond ordinary people, the future promotion to reincarnation realm, almost in the bag. But he, Yu Hua, was just a 4-star bone frame. Fuchen, you are now one of the top direct disciples in our Azure Water sect. Your Li clan doesn't seem to be safe on the outside. It is hard to guarantee that no one will target your Li clan. Zhao Wujin suddenly said. Yu Hua nodded. That's right. It is best for your Li clan to move to the Azure Water sect. Since the Azure Water mountains are huge enough, we can bestow a mountain peak to your Li clan. Hearing the statement, Li Fuchen's expression turned grave as this was what he was most worried about. The tallest tree in the forest would be destroyed by the wind. This was an unchanging truth. Then I shall have to trouble the 2 elders to inform the upper echelons. I will arrange for the Li clan to move to the Azure Water sect. There were only benefits and no disadvantages for the Li clan to move to the Azure Water sect. The Li clan's development was going well and had businesses in many cities. Their annual income had increased from a few 100,000 gold coins to over 1 million gold coins. But wealth was just a worldly possession. The reason why they needed so much gold coins was to allow the Li clan's descendants to grow stronger and more outstanding. But moving to the Azure Water sect was the same as becoming a sect clan. The resources they had were incomparable to the outside world. The sect's resources couldn't even be bought with gold coins in the outside world. Apart from that, the Li clan's descendants would naturally be more outstanding and have a broader outlook under the influence of the sect. There were countless clans in the Azure Water region. Which clan didn't wish to become a sect clan? A pity that they didn't have the qualifications. But now, Li Fuchen had the qualifications. Because of Li Fuchen, the Li clan had the qualifications too. The meal was a joyous one. During the meal, Zhao Wujin intentionally or unintentionally tried to matchmake Li Fuchen and Zhao Mingyue. Li Fuchen and Zhao Mingyue were well aware of it. But Li Fuchen didn't know what Zhao Mingyue was thinking in her heart. He didn't want to consider relationships at such an early stage. The upper echelons were extremely efficient and immediately approved the Li clan to become a sect clan. What a joke, Li Fuchen was now the continent's elite prodigy. Even if his future was uncertain, there was still a chance for him to become an elite martial artist of the continent. For this hope, the sect naturally spared no effort to take care of Li Fuchen and the Li clan. Even if Li Fuchen didn't grow to that stage in the future, the Azure Water sect wouldn't lose anything. A Li clan wouldn't consume much of the sect's resources. It was just a drop in the ocean. With the sect patriarch Ouyang Wentian's decision, a few inner sect elders and a group of outer sect elders set off for the Li clan. Their responsibility was to escort the Li clan and prevent any disturbances along the way. Li Fuchen was among them. With flying spirit beasts as transportation, everyone traveled at an extremely fast speed and arrived at Cloud Mist City in just 2 days. When the Li clan found out that the Li clan was going to become a sect clan, none of them had any hesitation and were extremely excited. Becoming a sect clan was the extravagant wish of countless clans, and today, the Li clan had achieved it. Moving a clan wasn't an easy task. Li Fuchen stayed at home for a few days before returning to the Azure Water sect. The Stars ranking tournament was getting closer and his current ability wasn't enough for him to rest easy. It was mainly because his cultivation level was too low, only at the 6th level of the Earth Realm. Even if he was at the 7th level of the Earth Realm, he would still be at the bottom of the Stars ranking tournament. During the tournament, the 9th level of the Earth Realm would probably be considered a normal cultivation level. The peak of the 9th level of the Earth Realm would be considered an elite cultivation level. There might even be some half-step Heaven Realm martial artists. Let's attempt the Direct Inheritance Tower first. Back at the sect, Li Fuchen first headed to the Direct Inheritance Tower. The last time he left the sect, he had just passed the 2nd floor of the Direct Inheritance Tower. This time, his target was the 3rd floor of the Direct Inheritance Tower and also to experience the difficulty of the 4th floor. The 2nd and 3rd floors of the Direct Inheritance Tower were filled with Class 3 high-tier demonic beasts. But the 2nd floor of the Direct Inheritance Tower was filled with weak Class 3 high-tier demonic beasts. As for the 3rd floor of the Direct Inheritance Tower, it was filled with formidable Class 3 high-tier demonic beasts. There were a few direct disciples who attempted the Direct Inheritance Tower. When they saw Li Fuchen, they were all excited. Li Xixiang is here to attempt the Direct Inheritance Tower. I heard that Li Xixiang's previous result was the 2nd floor of the Direct Inheritance Tower. Will he be able to pass the 3rd floor this time? What a joke, he definitely will. I just don't know how long he will take. Chapter 274. Soon enough, it was Li Fuchen's turn. Entering the Direct Inheritance Tower, Li Fuchen arrived at the 3rd floor. The formation was activated, and a blue leopard materialized. The blue ice leopard was an assassin among high-rank 3 demonic beasts. Its speed was extremely fast and it only needed 1 attack to kill an ordinary high-rank 3 demonic beast. The moment the blue ice leopard was formed, it immediately attacked Li Fuchen. The blue ice leopard's body suddenly burst out with a blue chilling chi presence. Under the assault of this chilling chi presence, Li Fuchen felt a chill. At the same moment, the blue ice leopard pounced at Li Fuchen with lightning speed. As expected of the blue ice leopard, Li Fuchen's chi and blood nearly froze. At the crucial moment, Li Fuchen activated the mystical dragon secret technique, causing his combat cultivation to rise sharply. With the addition of the 16th rank True Inferno technique, The blazing chi presence evaporated the blue ice leopard's cold chi presence. Sword current. The first profound rank intermediate rank killer move, sword flow, was executed. 10 sword lights burst forth. Pu 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 pu. The blue ice leopard's body was filled with sword scars. With a flash, Li Fuchen dodged the blue ice leopard's first attack and brandished his black gold sword again. Sword burst. Bang. The blue ice leopard exploded into pieces. With Li Fuchen's current ability, even if he used 30% or 50% of his strength, it would be enough to instantly kill the blue ice leopard. Let's go to the 4th floor to take a look. Li Fuchen arrived at the 4th floor. The power of the formation frantically condensed, and a huge phantom of a giant beast appeared. It was a giant bull demonic beast with a pair of horns that looked as though they were going to pierce through the Tower of Inheritance. As it let out a roar, the horrific sound wave assaulted and Li Fuchen's 7 orifices bled. Class 4 low-rank demon beast. Li Fuchen's pupils shrank. 4th level low-rank monster beast, equivalent to the Heavenly Dipper realm low-rank martial artist. Perhaps the heaven-defying Earth Fiend realm peak martial artist, the attack power can reach the level of Heavenly Dipper realm low-rank martial artist, but in terms of indiscriminate attack, it is certainly not comparable. Heavenly Dipper realm low-rank martial artist, casually erupting true chi, is very terrifying. Apart from that, their defense was also far inferior. If a Heavenly Dipper realm low-rank martial artist is here, he can completely resist the sound wave attack of the giant bull monster beast. Full moon. A fiery red full moon appeared as Li Fuchen executed his 3rd mystic class mid-tier kill move. Kacha. A shallow scar appeared on the giant bull demonic beast's body. What a strong defense. Li Fuchen's pupils shrank again. His full moon killer move, in terms of attack power, was not much weaker than a high-tier profound grade sword art that had comprehended sword intent. Its cutting power was very strong. The giant bull demonic beast sprinted in a frenzy. The chi force on its body surged like a wave and blasted at Li Fuchen. With his superior awareness, Li Fuchen dodged in advance, but was in a slightly awkward position. Fiery devil killing shadow. Li Fuchen executed the blaze devil sword art kill move. A scarlet-red shadow enveloped the giant bull demonic beast. Pu piu piu. Sword marks appeared on the body of the giant ox demonic beast, as if it had been sliced by 1,000 blades. However, this attack was not enough to defeat the giant bull demonic beast. The giant bull demonic beast's long tail, which was at least 3 meters long, swept out. It was as though a long whip was coiling towards Li Fuchen. The sweeping speed of the tail was too fast. Li Fuchen was aware of it, but his body was still a step slower. He was swept by the chi force contained in the tail and flew backwards while vomiting blood. In mid-air, Li Fuchen activated the black iron sword essence and immediately executed his strongest sword move. Fiery dragon. The black gold sword was raised up high. Red light gathered on its surface, like a crimson dragon expanding and contracting. Crackle. As the sword cleaved down, there was a burst of red light. One of the giant bull demonic beast's horns was severed. A sword mark extended from the top of its head all the way to its back. The giant bull demonic beast let out a frenzied roar. A horrific chi presence was emitted from its body. The chi presence was vigorous like a sun. Even when Li Fuchen executed the Black Wind 3 clones and produced 3 clones, he was still blasted into the walls of the direct inheritance tower by this horrific chi presence. This won't do. The difference in ability is too huge. Li Fuchen retreated out of the radius of the array. The reason why he was able to fight for such a long time wasn't because of his ability, but because of his incredible awareness which allowed him to evade in advance. Otherwise, he would have been defeated in just a few moves. He is out. It seems like it took quite a while. It is normal. Li Xixiang is only at the 6th level of the Earth Realm after all. He is much weaker than Sword Maniac and Sword Tiger Xixiang. There is still half a month before the sect selection tournament. Sword Maniac and Sword Tiger Xixiang shouldn't have any suspense, but Li Xixiang and Xue Xixiang still have some suspense. 2 years ago, there were only 4 individuals who passed the 3rd floor of the direct inheritance tower. Now, there are already more than 10 individuals who passed the 3rd floor. Outside the direct inheritance tower, there were many discussions. None of them thought about whether Li Fuchen passed the 4th floor of the direct inheritance tower. After all, the demonic beasts in the 4th floor's array were too powerful. They were Heaven Realm class demonic beasts, and it was impossible for them to pass. Even if Li Fuchen tried, he would probably be defeated in an instant and wouldn't waste too much time. The news of Li Fuchen attempting the direct inheritance tower was spread to someone's ears. His innate potential might be incredible, but he is still a little immature. Xue Shidi is the same too. In the courtyard, a youth let out a faint smile. His name was Bu Qingsong, and he was once the #1 direct disciple of the Azure Water sect. Furthermore, he was the first among the Azure Water sect's direct disciples to pass the 3rd floor of the direct inheritance tower. He was even earlier than Sword Maniac, Li Xiangru, and Sword Tiger, Chen Yuanhu. Back when Xue Feng passed the 3rd floor of the direct inheritance tower, he was one of the 3 that passed before him. In his eyes, Sword Maniac and Sword Tiger were hard to deal with, but he was rather confident in Li Fuchen and Xue Feng. Even though this confidence came from his cultivation time and cultivation level. After passing the direct inheritance tower, Li Fuchen immediately headed towards the Sword Monument Canyon. His Blaze Devil Sword intent was at the initial stage and still had plenty of room for improvement. Through the sword intent in the Sword Monument, he might be able to advance the Blaze Devil Sword intent to the next level and reach the matured stage. As for contribution points, Li Fuchen didn't lack them. He still had a few million contribution points, which was enough for him to comprehend for a month or 2. As time elapsed, it was getting closer to the sect selection tournament. The rewards for the sect selection tournament were about to be announced. In this sect selection tournament, the top 4 would be able to participate in the Stars ranking tournament. Apart from that, the 1st and 2nd place would receive a piece of Star Stone. The Star Stone might not be of much use to others, but it was very useful to Earth Realm prodigies. In order to obtain these 2 pieces of Star Stones, the sect had put in a lot of effort. After all, no matter how much resources and gold coins you had, if you couldn't find the Star Stone, it was useless. Once the Star Stone reward was announced, Li Xiangru, Chen Yuanhu, and Xue Feng were all tempted. Li Xiangru and Chen Yuanhu might have reached the 9th level of the Earth Realm, but above the 9th level of the Earth Realm, there was still the peak level of the Earth Realm and the half-step Heaven Realm. With the Star Stone, they would be able to save at least a year of hard work. But it was obvious that contending for the top 2 wasn't a simple task. Only Sword Maniac, Li Xiangru, had the confidence, while the others didn't. Star Stone, huh? Bu Qingsong's eyes flickered with radiance. He once had the fortune to obtain a piece of Star Stone, but it was a pity that he didn't get a second piece of Star Stone. If he had this Star Stone, he might just be able to reach the half-step Heaven Realm. Chapter 275. Sword Monument Canyon. In the past, Li Fuchen's perception might be high, but his cultivation was still rather low. Right now, his perception was only high and his cultivation was at the 6th level of the Earth Realm. Furthermore, he had comprehended the Mystic Class High-Tier Sword intent, the Blaze Devil Sword intent. When he arrived at the Sword Monument Canyon again, Li Fuchen felt as though he had blended into the Sword Monument. His sword intent was resonating with the sword intent in the Sword Monument. The Blaze Devil Sword intent was a blazing sword intent. In an instant, Li Fuchen could sense dozens of blazing sword intents. These sword intents were communicating with the Blaze Devil Sword intent, and it felt like a senior giving pointers to a junior. As the days passed by, Li Fuchen's Blaze Devil Sword intent gradually deepened. Once the Blaze Devil Sword intent deepened, the Blaze Devil Sword art and the Blaze Dragon Kill moves grade would naturally increase. 5 days later, Li Fuchen's Blaze Devil Sword intent had reached the matured stage and was just 1 step away from reaching the Mystic Class Peak Tier Sword intent. The matured Blaze Devil Sword intent was extremely fearsome and it had the tendency to fuse with the spirit will. It could be slightly contained in the Qi presence to increase the power of the Qi presence. A person with a horrific chi presence could use the chi presence to kill. For example, a heaven realm martial artist could use the chi presence to kill a regular earth realm martial artist. Zhao Wujin could even use his chi presence to suppress the second-level heaven realm Liao Tianyun to the ground, rendering him immobile. From the looks of it, intent can be fused with the spirit will. But the grade of the intent must be high enough. Like the earth class intent, it can be separated from the existence of martial arts. The reason why it can be separated from the existence of martial arts is probably because the earth class intent can be completely fused with the spirit will. Li Fuchen came to a shocking conclusion. In the land of Fog's tomb, a single defense intent was able to obstruct Li Fuchen and his group for a long time. It was just a single intent. It was imaginable how terrifying and incredible a high-grade intent was. The first mystic martial experts' pointers to Li Fuchen were too in-depth, allowing Li Fuchen's Sword Dao foundation to be extremely deep. With the help of the sword intent on the sword monument, Li Fuchen's Blaze Devil Sword intent was constantly getting stronger, as though it was limitless. When comprehending the Blaze Devil Sword intent, Li Fuchen didn't forget to improve his other sword intents. In just a short period of time, his Mystic Class Mid-Tier Sword intent had already reached the level of Mystic Class High-Tier Sword intent. On the other hand, the Low-Tier Profound Class Sword intent was close to the Mid-Tier Profound Class Sword intent. What surprised Li Fuchen was that his Mystic Class Low-Tier Sword intent, Meteor Sword intent had actually climbed to the Mystic Class Mid-Tier Sword intent. Furthermore, it didn't seem to be any weaker than the Starfire Sword intent and Rotating Flow Sword intent. The Meteor Sword intent is very simple. It's just pure speed and pure explosive power. However, the simpler something is, the closer it is to the essence. If it can absorb the essence of other sword intents, the Meteor Sword intent might be able to break through to the Earth realm. Li Fuchen had a trace of enlightenment in his heart. He had a feeling that the future of the Meteor Sword intent was even more powerful than the Fiery Devil Sword intent. However, the prerequisite was that he did not have the ability to improve the Meteor Sword intent. In the blink of an eye, there were only 3 days left before the sect selection competition would begin. To prevent himself from losing track of time, Li Fuchen temporarily left the sword monument and returned to his own courtyard. It was rare for Li Fuchen to be free. Li Fuchen's courtyard had quite a number of guests. Li Tianshi and the other Li clan disciples were there. Silver Rich City's young city lord, Xiang Tianxiang. There were also Xiao Laibi, Chen Fanghua, and other senior brothers and sisters from the sect. There were also Gao Changtian, Wu Qingmei, and the others. Jinxiu, your Li clan is about to become a sect clan. You wouldn't dump me, right? Beside Li Jinxiu was a silver class direct disciple called Tsang Feng, who was at the 4th level of the Earth realm. He was half joking and half serious. Li Jinxiu was annoyed and found it funny. What are you talking about? Am I Li Jinxiu, such a person? Tsang Feng was her lover. Before Li Fuchen rose up, the Li clan's disciples were more or less taken care of by Tsang Feng. This made the Yang clan very jealous and felt that Li Jinxiu was trying to make the Li clan and Yang clan go against each other, which was why she hooked up with the direct disciple, Tsang Feng. Back then, Tsang Feng still had some arrogance in his heart, and it was human nature. But ever since Li Fuchen became a gold-class direct disciple, Tsang Feng didn't have any arrogance anymore. But now, let alone arrogance, he was afraid that Li Jinxiu was only trying to help the Li clan back then, which made him worry about his gains and losses. After all, the current Li clan was like the sun in the sky, and Li Fuchen's status in the sect was incomparable. He, Tsang Feng, was just an ordinary silver-class direct disciple and wasn't considered anything. Li Shidi, I believe in your ability. But during the sect selection tournament, you have to be careful of Bu Qingsong. He was once the #1 direct disciple of the Azure Water sect. Xiao Laibi said. Chen Fanghua nodded. Bu Qingsong's cultivation is at the peak level of the Earth realm and he is extremely formidable. I once saw him defeating a top 10 Xixiang in a single move. Li Fuchen nodded. I will be careful. He knew that Bu Qingsong was indeed formidable. It was a pity that the current Li Fuchen was no longer the same as before. Every day, his ability was advancing by leaps and bounds. Apart from heaven-defying 5-star bone frames or 6-star bone frames, he wasn't worried about the others. Everyone chatted merrily and only left when it was late at night. Soon enough, it was the day of the sect selection tournament. The sect selection tournament would be conducted at the Azure Water sect's largest martial arts stage. As long as one's cultivation was at the 6th level of the Earth realm and above, they would be able to participate. There were only a few dozen individuals who fulfilled the requirements. Early morning, the massive martial arts stage was packed with people. Most of the upper echelons were here. Apart from them, there were plenty of inner sect disciples who were fortunate enough to come and watch. Look, that is Sword Maniac Xixiang. He is Sword Maniac Xixiang? This is the first time I see him. That is Sword Tiger Xixiang and Emotionless Sword Xixiang. As the participating direct disciples entered the stage one by one, the inner sect disciples in the audience seats were in an uproar. Some of the legendary figures of the past had all entered the stage today. Such an opportunity was hard to come by. Li Fuchen Xixiang is here. He is so young. Isn't he? Li Fuchen Xixiang is only 20 years old this year. In terms of innate potential, Li Fuchen Xixiang is undoubtedly the strongest. A pity that his cultivation level is a little low and is only at the 6th level of the Earth realm. There shouldn't be any problem, right? Li Xixiang's ability cannot be judged by his cultivation level. Everyone was in a heated discussion. On the rostrum, sect patriarch Ouyang Wenyan was seated in the middle. On his left were a few experts with horrific chi presences. They were obviously the supreme elders of the Azure Water sect. On his right were the protectors, Grand Elder Zhao Wujin and the others. Wenyan, is this child Li Fuchen? A supreme elder asked Ouyang Wenyan. Ouyang Wenyan nodded. That is the child. Miracle. A 1-star bone frame can have such accomplishments. If it was in the past, I would never believe it. But now I have no choice but to believe it. A few of the supreme elders were in awe. As Reincarnation realm martial artists, they could naturally see that Li Fuchen was different from the rest. Furthermore, to be able to become the first mystic martial expert's personal disciple, they couldn't afford to doubt him. His cultivation level is a little low. I hope there won't be any accidents during the selection tournament. One of the supreme elders was still a little doubtful. Li Fuchen was at the 6th level of the Earth realm and was 3 levels lower than the other popular candidates. In the Earth realm, 3 levels wasn't something that could be easily made up for. Apart from that, Li Fuchen's cultivation time was too short. Even if he had astounding innate potential, a short cultivation time was still a huge disadvantage. Let's wait and see. Chapter 276. Among the direct disciples, there were 2 of them who were staring at Li Fuchen. One of them was Yuan Tian, the other was Lu Wuhuang. When Li Fuchen first arrived at the Azure Water sect, Yuan Tian was the #1 outer sect disciple, but he was surpassed by Li Fuchen. When Li Fuchen became an inner sect disciple, Lu Wuhuang was like the sun in the sky, but he was also surpassed by Li Fuchen. As 5-star bone frames, the 2 of them should have been glorious, but Li Fuchen overtook them and overshadowed their brilliance. The pressure and humiliation caused Yuan Tian and Lu Wuhuang to improve at a rapid pace. They actually both stepped into the 6th level of the Earth realm. Of course, Yuan Tian was able to step into the 6th level of the Earth realm mainly because he obtained a star stone and consumed a mystic class, mid-tier elixir to increase his cultivation level. Lu Wuhuang didn't obtain the star stone, but he did consume a mystic class, mid-tier elixir to increase his cultivation level. Elixirs that could increase one's cultivation level were extremely precious, but mystic class, mid-tier elixirs that could increase the cultivation level of the Earth realm were countless times more precious. But the price was that the 2 of them would have to spend a lot of time to stabilize their cultivation levels, which was equivalent to overdrafting their future cultivation time. But in order to qualify for the sect selection tournament, everything was worth it. We must get top 4. Yuan Tian and Lu Wuhuang weren't willing to be shrouded in Li Fuchen's shadow for the rest of their lives. For the past 2 years, they spent all their time on cultivation and were much more diligent than before. This was their final chance. They might not be able to surpass Li Fuchen, but they had to at least catch up to Li Fuchen's footsteps. There were a total of 30 direct disciples in the tournament. 80% of them were gold-class direct disciples, while the remaining 20% were silver-class direct disciples. These 20% of silver-class direct disciples were only at the 6th level of the Earth realm and were just here to make up the numbers. The Stars ranking tournament required participants to be below the age of 35. 4 silver-class direct disciples to reach the 6th level of the Earth realm before the age of 35, it was undoubtedly an extremely difficult task. Many of them relied on elixirs and other methods to forcefully increase their cultivation level just to participate in the sect selection tournament. Seeing that all the participating direct disciples had arrived, Zhao Wujin stood up and announced loudly, "The sect selection competition has officially begun. The competition will be an elimination system. If you accumulate 4 losses, you will be disqualified from the competition. I hope that all of you will do your best in every match." The Azure Water sect only had 4 slots to participate in the Stars ranking tournament. If they were to lose 4 matches, their ranking would naturally be below the 4th place and it was impossible for them to enter the top 4. Below the stage, the judge took out 2 wooden lots from the box and announced, "First round, Yuan Tian versus Tan Mo, Yuan Tian?" Li Fuchen sized up Yuan Tian. After not seeing each other for 2 years, Li Fuchen's chi presence was much more profound. It seemed like Li Fuchen had improved a lot during these 2 years. After all, Li Fuchen was a 5-star bone frame and his innate potential wasn't inferior to Sword Tiger, Emotionless Sword, and the others. On the stage, Yuan Tian and Tan Mo fought. Tan Mo was 28 years old this year and was a gold-class direct disciple with an elite 4-star bone frame. Bang 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 bang. Everyone originally thought that Yuan Tian wasn't a match for Tan Mo. But after 100 moves, not only did Yuan Tian not fall into a disadvantageous position, he actually had the upper hand. This child isn't bad. This rate of improvement seems to be much stronger than Qin Yuanhu back then. Many of the inner sect elders nodded. After a few hundred moves, Yuan Tian defeated Tan Mo in a single blade and won the first match. The second match was Li Fuchen's and his opponent was a silver-class direct disciple. Perhaps he wanted to witness Li Fuchen's ability, as this silver-class direct disciple didn't give up. "Li Shidi, please enlighten me." The youth's eyes flashed. "Please." Li Fuchen nodded. The sky was filled with sword shadows as the dense sword chi was like the bleak autumn wind. It was mournful and filled with murderous intent. To be able to become a direct disciple, none of them were mortals. At least in front of the inner sect disciples, the youth's sword art had already reached a state where they couldn't see through. They felt that a simple trace of sword chi would be enough to turn them into blood mist. Li Fuchen brandished his sword. There was a flash of sword light and the sword shadow scattered. The youth took a few steps back and there was a trace of blood on his throat. "Many thanks for Li Shidi's mercy." The youth blushed with shame. Li Fuchen nodded and didn't say anything. Li Shidi is too profound and unfathomable. A simple sword was able to defeat his opponent. Everyone praised. The third match was Lu Wuhuang and his opponent was also a silver-class direct disciple. Seemingly wanting to contest with Li Fuchen, Lu Wuhuang also defeated his opponent in a single blade. But those who were observant would be able to see that Lu Wuhuang's sword art wasn't as untraceable as Li Fuchen's and was purely using strength to suppress his opponent. The 4th and 5th matches. Soon enough, there was only 1 match left in this round. For the first 14 matches, half of the matches were carried out very quickly. Among them, Sword Maniac Li Xiangru, Sword Tiger Qin Yuanhu, Emotionless Sword Xuefeng, and a few others were all defeated in a single blade. The disparity between the two sides was so huge that it couldn't be measured. The 15th match was between Bu Qingsong and a gold-class direct disciple. On the contest stage, there was a brilliant sword light that was like a blazing sun. Bu Qingsong's opponent was defeated in a clean manner. Even the black gold sword was sent flying and his clothes were torn. Being at the peak level of the Earth realm, Bu Qingsong didn't need to use his exquisite sword art to defeat his opponent. He just had to release a little of his chi to injure his opponent with his sword chi. such strength. Apart from Sword Maniac Xixiang and Sword Tiger Xixiang, no one else is a match for Bu Xixiang. Not necessarily. Xue Xixiang's cultivation is also at the 8th level of the Earth Realm and might not be inferior to Bu Xixiang. Xue Xixiang and Bu Xixiang might have a match. As for the victor, we will only know after they fight. Most of the people didn't think that Li Fuchen was a match for Bu Qingsong as the disparity between their cultivation levels was too great. The second round of the tournament began. First match, Li Fuchen against Yuan Tian. During the Outer Sect era, two of the most dazzling prodigies were going against each other in the first match. Different times meant different mental states. Right now, in Li Fuchen's eyes, Yuan Tian was no different from a regular direct disciple. Back then when they were contending for the number 1 Outer Sect disciple, it was already like a fleeting cloud, as though it was something that happened in the previous lifetime. One blade, it was still one blade. The astounding Yuan Tian was defeated by Li Fuchen in a single blade. Seeing this scene, everyone was completely speechless. It wasn't that Yuan Tian wasn't valiant enough, it was because Li Fuchen's improvement was too fast. In just a few short years, he had already surpassed all other prodigies of the same level. The Stars ranking tournament was held once every 3 years. Normally speaking, 25 years old and above was the optimal age to participate. But Li Fuchen was only 20 years old. To participate in the Stars ranking tournament at the age of 20 was undoubtedly too much ahead of time. Such a situation would normally only happen to heaven-defying 5-star and 6-star bone frames. Perhaps in the next Stars ranking tournament, Yuan Tian might have the chance to enter the Stars ranking. But not now. He is no longer of the same world as us. Gao Changtian, who was also one of the top 10 Outer Sect disciples, sighed. Wu Qingmei nodded and felt complicated as well. Even though he was unwilling, but Yuan Tian was already mentally prepared. He just couldn't believe it previously. Right now, he couldn't help but believe that the current him had a huge gap with Li Fuchen. Not only did he not close the gap, he was even further away. In the third round of the tournament, Lu Wuhuang was defeated by emotionless sword Xue Feng. As compared to Xue Feng, Lu Wang's maturity was still lacking. After all, Xue Feng was also a 5-star bone frame. At the end of the fourth round of the tournament, all the silver-class direct disciples were eliminated. Apart from that, there were also 2 gold-class direct disciples who were eliminated. Chapter 277. In the first match of the 5th round, after Yuan Tian, Li Fuchen went against Lu Wuhuang. From the previous matches, it was obvious that Lu Wuhuang's ability was much stronger than Yuan Tian. After all, Lu Wuhuang was 2 years older than Yuan Tian and had 2 more years of cultivation time. Generally speaking, one's cultivation level could be forcefully increased using external items. But when it came to the Sword Dao Foundation, external items wouldn't be of much use. Up until now, Lu Wuhuang had only lost 1 match, while Yuan Tian had already lost 3 matches. On the contest stage, Lu Wuhuang had a grave expression. He knew that Li Fuchen passed the 3rd floor of the Direct Inheritance Tower, but he didn't have the ability to do so. But this didn't mean that he had to admit defeat. He could withstand the 3rd floor of the Direct Inheritance Tower for a period of time, and he assumed that he wasn't too far off from Li Fuchen, who had just passed the 3rd floor. What's more, the Direct Inheritance Tower mostly tested one's attack power. If one's attack power wasn't high enough, they wouldn't be able to defeat the demonic beasts. But in a battle between martial artists, it wasn't just about attack power, it was more important if one's sword art was exquisite. Take this. Lu Wuang's body flashed and lifted the black gold sword in his hand. The brilliant sword chi split into 2, 2 into 4, 4 into 8. In an instant, the dense sword chi was like a locust swarm that enveloped Li Fuchen. Dense, boundless, and tyrannical. This was the feeling that Lu Wuang's sword art gave off. And this sword art was known by many of the Azure Water sect's direct disciples. This sword art was a mystic-class mid-tier sword art, shadow split sword art. What's more, Lu Wuang's shadow split sword intent was obviously at the matured stage and was unfathomable. I wonder how he is going to counter it? A few of the gold-class direct disciples who passed the third floor of the direct inheritance tower were staring at Li Fuchen. No wonder he is a 5-star bone frame. A pity that he is facing me. Li Fuchen brandished his sword. Once the sword was brandished, sparks danced in the sky. Lu Wang's shadow split sword chi was cleanly broken. The chi protection was broken and a starfire blasted Lu Wuhuang away, charring his clothes. They were both mystic class mid-tier sword arts, but Li Fuchen's starfire sword style was at least 2 folds more exquisite than Lu Wuhuang's. If Li Fuchen was willing, he could just use this blade to obliterate Lu Wuhuang. Incredible! The pupils of all the true disciples shrank. Li Fuchen neutralized the shadow split sword style with ease, just like an adult dealing with a child. Unknowingly, the preliminaries had progressed to the 9th round. At this moment, there were only 16 people left who had not been eliminated. Yuan Tian had long been eliminated, while Lu Wuhuang had already lost 3 rounds. During this period of time, Li Fuchen had defeated several gold-class direct disciples who had passed the 3rd floor of the direct inheritance tower. His strength had exceeded everyone's expectations. In the 7th match of the 9th round, Li Fuchen took the stage again. This time, his opponent was the Azure Water Sect's number 5 direct disciple, Lu Yuan, who was at the 9th level of the Earth Realm. Lu Yuan had already passed the 3rd floor of the direct inheritance tower more than a year ago. When facing Li Fuchen, he spoke with a relaxed expression. Li Shidi sure has some good methods. To have such strength at such a young age. If I had another year or so, I might not be a match for Li Shidi. His strength was not much weaker than Xue Feng. The only difference was that he had not created a mystic-class mid-tier killer move. Make your move, Li Fuchen said indifferently. Then be careful, junior brother Li. The black gold sword in Lu Yuan's hand trembled, and countless dazzling sword flowers blossomed. Mystic-class mid-tier sword art. Embroidered sword art. A mystic-class mid-tier sword art that was executed by a 9th level of the Earth Realm. It was at least 2-fold stronger than Lu Wuang's shadow split sword art. In comparison, Li Fuchen's cultivation was only at the 6th level of the Earth Realm, which was 3 levels lower than Lu Yuan. Right now, the 3-star secret technique, mystical dragon secret technique, and primary clear hand weren't considered trump cards anymore. Most of the participants had a 3-star secret technique. But Li Fuchen didn't plan to use the Black Iron Sword Essence secret technique, neither did he plan to use an even more incredible sword art or kill move. With his astounding awareness, he was able to instantly see through the flaws of Lu Yuan's sword art. By targeting the flaws, Li Fuchen was able to counter them with little effort. It was still the Starfire Sword technique, but this time, the Starfire Sword technique was too dazzling. It was as though someone had sent a bonfire flying with a single palm strike. Within the bonfire, there were thousands of sparks that were dancing and spinning. It was unbelievably beautiful and also unbelievably dangerous. Completion rank Mystic Class Mid-Tier Sword Intent? On the rostrum, Zhao Wujin blurted out. The so-called completion rank Mystic Class Mid-Tier Sword Intent meant that it was close to the level of a Mystic Class High-Tier Sword Intent. At this stage, it meant that Li Fuchen had pushed the Mystic Class Mid-Tier Sword art to the extremity. If he pushed it further, it would metamorphose into a Mystic Class High-Tier Sword art. Furthermore, his awareness? Ouyang Wentian's eyes were extremely sharp and he could clearly feel that Li Fuchen had seen through the flaws of Lu Yuan's sword art. Bang boom! Lu Yuan's sword art was brilliant, but Li Fuchen's sword art was several times more brilliant. Like a bubble that was burst, Lu Yuan's sword art crumbled upon contact and wasn't able to threaten Li Fuchen. Lu Yuan's eyes contracted. Splendid cluster of flowers. Lu Yuan burst out with the finishing move of the splendid cluster sword art. Layers of sword flowers were like a sea of flowers that surged at Li Fuchen. Ceaseless swirling flow. Li Fuchen's sword stance changed from the Starfire sword art to the swirling flow sword art. The swirling sword light was like a scarlet stream of water that devoured the sea of flowers before exploding violently. Rumble! Lu Yuan was involuntarily sent flying and landed below the martial stage. Thanks for letting me win. Li Fuchen replied. Lu Yuan's expression changed several times before his eyes finally dimmed. He was utterly convinced of his defeat. Li Fuchen's sword art rank was too high. The terrifying thing was that Li Fuchen was only 20 years old. To have such sword art accomplishments at the age of 20, even sword maniac Li Xiangru was far inferior. No wonder Li Fuchen was accepted as a personal disciple by the #1 mystic martial expert. Li Fuchen wasn't someone that Lu Yuan could guess. Too strong. The rest of the gold-class direct disciples that passed the 3rd floor of the direct inheritance tower shook their heads and were rather dispirited. Originally, they still had a trace of hope to fight for the top 4 spots. But now, the only trace of hope was gone. Right now, only sword maniac Li Xiangru, sword tiger Qin Yuanhu, emotionless sword Xue Feng, Bu Qingsong, and Li Fuchen could compete for the top 4 spots. The rest of the people weren't qualified. He has some ability. Bu Qingsong had a grave expression too. Li Fuchen's sword art rank was too high, and it was very likely that he had already created a mystic class mid-tier kill move. As such, it wouldn't be an easy task for him to defeat Li Fuchen. In the 8th match of the 9th round, Qin Yuanhu against Xue Feng. After clashing for dozens of moves, Qin Yuanhu defeated Xue Feng in a single blade. In the first match of the 10th round, sword maniac Li Xiangru went against Qin Yuanhu. In just 3 blades, Qin Yuanhu was defeated. In the 3rd match of the 10th round, Li Fuchen went against Bu Qingsong. They are going against each other. Everyone's eyes were wide open. One of them was a veteran direct disciple and was the #1 direct disciple in the Azure Water sect during his prime. He might have been surpassed by sword maniac Li Xiangru, but Bu Qingsong's strength was undeniable. Furthermore, his cultivation was the highest among everyone and was at the peak level of the Earth realm. One of them was the most dazzling prodigy in the Azure Water sect. Apart from his weak cultivation, he was undoubtedly the best of the best in all aspects. The match between the two of them was definitely historic. Chapter 278. Bu Qingsong sized up Li Fuchen and smiled. Li Shidi has good skills. You are able to jump 3 levels and defeat Lu Yuan Shidi. It truly surprised me. Bu Qingsong truly admired Li Fuchen. In the Earth realm, the 3 levels weren't easy to overcome, let alone the 6th level to the 9th level of the Earth realm. Senior brother Bu, you flatter me. Li Fuchen let out a faint smile and had a calm expression. Seeing the situation, Bu Qingsong's eyes turned grave. Li Fuchen's expression made him feel uneasy, but the arrow was already on the bowstring and had to be released. He hoped that it was just his misconception. Junior Li, please enlighten me. Bu Qingsong burst out with a yell and burst out with his peak-level Earth Realm cultivation. On the martial stage, the air exploded and the intense wind blew Li Fuchen's hair and clothes to flutter. It felt as though he was going to be blown away at any moment. Being at the peak stage of the Earth Realm was too tyrannical. Coupled with the 3-star secret technique, Bu Qingsong's chi presence was close to that of a Heaven Realm martial artist. Regular low-leveled Earth Realm martial artists would probably collapse under the suppression of Bu Qingsong's chi presence. They wouldn't have any battle intent or fighting spirit left. Too powerful. Is Li Fuchen a match? Everyone held their breaths. This level of battle wasn't something they could judge. Li Fuchen's strength was obvious, but Bu Qingsong's strength seemed to be even stronger. The outcome of this battle has already been decided. Beside Zhao Wujin, the tall and thin man shook his head. Hearing this, Zhao Wujin smiled and said, "Protector Luo, that may not be the case." Protector Luo looked at Zhao Wujin with surprise. Elder Zhao seems to be very confident in Li Fuchen. Zhao Wujin smiled mysteriously. This kid isn't that simple. After a few interactions, Zhao Wujin had some understanding of Li Fuchen. Li Fuchen wasn't as ostentatious as some of the disciples. He was like an unfathomable pool of water. Normally, no one would know his depth. Bu Qingsong was indeed very strong. Unfortunately, everyone knew his background very well. As for Li Fuchen, no one knew of his trump card. Then let's wait and see. Protector Luo smiled faintly. Take this. Bu Qingsong unsheathed his dark gold sword. Immediately after, There was a massive sword shadow that was like a thunderbolt that was violently striking at Li Fuchen. Profound level middle tier sword art, raging thunder sword art. His sword was like thunder and lightning, it was extremely fierce. Bu Qingsong was confident that other than a few people, no one would be able to withstand his sword. Even if they could withstand the first sword, it would be impossible for them to withstand the second sword. The peak stage of the Earth realm is indeed extraordinary. The mystical dragon secret technique was activated and the 16th rank of the true Inferno technique was circulated. Li Fuchen's chi presence rushed into the sky and resisted Bu Qingsong's chi presence. At the same moment, Li Fuchen released his second mystic class mid-tier kill move, Sword Explosion. This aura. The eyes of the other protector next to Protector Luo widened. With his first level Reincarnation realm cultivation, how could he not see that Li Fuchen's true Burning Heaven technique had already reached the 16th rank? Unbelievable! Among our Azure Water sect's direct disciples, only Li Xiangru and a few others managed to cultivate their mystic class, peak-tier cultivation technique to the 15th rank. The rest of them seemed to be at the 14th rank or even lower. I didn't expect this child to catch up and reach the 16th rank. One of the supreme elders nodded. A high sword Dao perception could only dominate the Azure Water sect. But if one had a high perception in other aspects, then it would be incredible. You are worth teaching. The smile on Ouyang Wentian's face was getting wider. The stronger Li Fuchen's perception, it meant that Li Fuchen's future was bright and the chances of setbacks would be smaller. Li Fuchen reckoned that he would at least reach the peak level of the Heaven realm. If he could reach the Reincarnation realm, it would be extremely terrifying and it wouldn't be a problem to sweep across regular Reincarnation realm martial artists. Rumble. When the violent thunder sword art and the kill move, Sword Explosion clashed together, the martial stage shook while Bu Qingsong and Li Fuchen each took 7 or 8 steps back. Alright, receive another move from me, Thunderstorm Dance. Bu Qingsong wielded his sword with both hands and slashed at Li Fuchen with thunderous sword chi. The prowess was extremely horrifying. Sword flow. When Li Fuchen brandished his sword, dozens of sword chi burst out and shredded the thunderous sword chi. He actually created 2 mystic class mid-tier kill moves. Bu Qingsong's expression changed. Every kill move was extreme. Therefore, it might be strong in a certain aspect, but it would be much weaker in other aspects. For example, his first move, Clear Sky Thunderblast, sword flow wasn't easy to block. As for the second move, Thunderstorm Dance, Sword Explosion wasn't easy to block either. If Li Fuchen only created 1 mystic class mid-tier kill move, he would only be able to block one of Bu Qingsong's swords and wouldn't be able to block the other sword. Creating 2 mystic class mid-tier kill moves. Not bad, not bad. Protector Luo smiled and nodded. Zhao Wujin also nodded. This child's perception is enough to surpass everything. Protector Luo shook his head. Bu Qingsong hasn't executed his kill move yet. Let's see. In any case, he didn't believe that Li Fuchen could defeat Bu Qingsong. Even if Li Fuchen created the 3rd mystic class mid-tier kill move, it probably wouldn't be enough. Bu Qingsong was merely executing a mystic class mid-tier sword art and already had such power. Once he burst out with his kill move, the power would increase drastically and it wasn't just a small increase. Li Fuchen, you are indeed formidable. But if this is all you have, then you shall be defeated next. Bu Qingsong was very confident. After the 2 exchanges earlier, he had a rough understanding of Li Fuchen's strength. Li Fuchen didn't say anything. Thunder Devour. Bu Qingsong's chi burst out and when he cleaved with his sword, the violent sword chi expanded into a sphere and blasted at Li Fuchen. The spherical thunder sword chi was more tyrannical and violent than imagined. Even the martial stage had cracks and it was unprecedented. Full moon. But right at this moment, Li Fuchen's 3rd mystic class mid-tier kill move had also been executed. In the void, the shadow of a fiery full moon appeared, and then it slashed at the ball-shaped lightning sword chi. Crackle. The horrific spherical thunder sword chi was actually slashed apart by the fiery red full moon. The scattered sword chi was wreaking havoc on both sides of Li Fuchen, but it was a pity that it couldn't do anything to Li Fuchen. But that fiery red full moon didn't diminish and continued to slash at Bu Qingsong. Impossible! Bu Qingsong's eyes widened and he executed his step art. The void flickered with electric arcs as he dodged the fiery red full moon. Mystic class Loter step art. Rapid thunder step. It was a pity that Bu Qingsong was fast but Li Fuchen was faster. He instantly appeared on the right side of Bu Qingsong and executed his sword flow kill move. Dozens of sword lights drowned Bu Qingsong. After getting hit by a few sword lights, Bu Qingsong vomited blood and was sent flying off the martial stage. Li Fuchen was victorious. This kill move is actually so incredible. Protector Luo was moved. A regular mystic class mid-tier kill move wouldn't have such power. But Li Fuchen's full moon kill move was extremely exquisite and was obviously a mystic class high-tier sword move. If the sword intent was also at the mystic class high tier, then this kill move would evolve into a regular mystic class high-tier kill move and would be even more formidable than a regular mystic class high-tier sword art. This child isn't a dark horse, he has the strength of a monarch. One of the supreme elders praised. Chapter 279. The fourth match of the 10th round, Li Xiangru against Xue Feng. Xue Feng was defeated with a single sword strike. Until now, no one was able to make sword maniac Li Xiangru use the fourth sword. Only sword tiger Qin Yuanhu was able to make him use the third sword. The 10th round ended. The 11th round began. Bu Qingsong and Xue Feng faced off. Whether or not Bu Qingsong could defeat Xue Feng was the key to entering the top 4. If he was defeated by Xue Feng, it meant that he wasn't a match for Qin Yuanhu, let alone Li Xiangru. With the addition of Li Fuchen, he would only be ranked 5th. The battle was intense. Among the 5 of them, Bu Qingsong and Xue Feng's abilities were the closest. The battle between the two of them was undoubtedly a battle of equal strength. It would not be an easy task for either of them to emerge victorious. They would have to exchange a few hundred blows. First was the clash of sword techniques, then the clash of killer moves. Finally, it was a battle of movement techniques and footwork. This battle made everyone cry out in satisfaction. After 500 moves, Bu Qingsong was defeated by Xue Feng. His strength was actually slightly stronger than Xue Feng, but in terms of battle awareness, he was much weaker than Xue Feng. The next match was Li Fuchen against Qin Yuanhu. One of them was called Sword Demon, while the other was called Sword Tiger. This battle was going to be more intense than any of the others he had fought before. That was what everyone thought. Li Shidi, please. Qin Yuanhu didn't dare to belittle Li Fuchen and even subconsciously feared Li Fuchen. Senior brother Qin, please. Li Fuchen had a calm expression and didn't have a trace of nervousness. Do your best, Senior Brother Qin. Senior Brother Qin will definitely win. In the spectator stands, the group of inner sect disciples suddenly burst into a huge commotion. Sword Tiger Qin Yuanhu had been famous in the Azure Water sect for a long time and naturally had plenty of admirers. Right now, all of them couldn't help but cheer for him. Senior Brother Li is invincible. Senior Brother Li is invincible. Qin Yuanhu had admirers, Li Fuchen naturally had admirers too, and Li Fuchen's admirers were even crazier than Qin Yuanhu's admirers. It was different from Qin Yuanhu, who had been famous for a long time. Li Fuchen hadn't been famous for a long time, but he was much more dazzling than Qin Yuanhu. The world worshipped experts, especially experts like Li Fuchen who rose like a comet. Yuan Tiger Kill. Qin Yuanhu immediately executed his kill move. A giant tiger shadow appeared out of nowhere and blasted at Li Fuchen. Full Moon. A fiery red full moon appeared as Li Fuchen executed his third mystic class mid-tier kill move, Full Moon. Rumble. The two killer moves clashed, rocks flew everywhere on the battle stage, cracks could be seen everywhere. Tiger splitting kill. Qin Yuanhu shouted, his second profound grade middle-tier killer move erupted. This killer move was created in the mystic martial hidden domain. Its lethality was much stronger and more extreme than the Vitality Tiger kill. In the void, an even more ferocious giant tiger shadow shot at Li Fuchen. The rest of the giant tiger shadow was rather blurry, but its front claws were malevolent and sharp. They crisscrossed and clawed at Li Fuchen. Once Li Fuchen was clawed, he would be torn into pieces. Li Fuchen had a smile on his face. Looks like I have to reveal some of my abilities. Li Fuchen didn't want to reveal the 4-star secret technique, Black Iron Sword Essence yet, so he could only reveal the Blaze Devil Sword art. He raised the black gold sword in his hand slightly and suddenly stabbed out. In the next moment, the scarlet sword aura exploded like magma, dispelling Qin Yuanhu's killer move, Splitting Tiger Kill. The terrifying residual force of the sword move sent Qin Yuanhu flying. Mystic Class High-Tier Sword Intent. All the upper echelons took a deep, cold breath. Regular Heaven Realm martial artists weren't able to comprehend a Mystic Class High-Tier Sword Intent. Even if Li Fuchen was an outstanding genius, he was only 20 years old and he was actually able to comprehend a Mystic Class High-Tier Sword Intent, the Blaze Devil Sword Intent. It could be said that only by comprehending a Mystic Class High-Tier Sword Intent, an Earth Realm martial artist would have the hope to defeat a Heaven Realm martial artist. Of course, the prerequisite was to be at the peak level of the Earth Realm. Otherwise, a Heaven Realm martial artist's chi presence was enough to restrain one. Mystic Class High-Tier Sword Intent? Bu Qingsong and Xue Feng's eyes shrank. They never would have thought that Li Fuchen could comprehend a Mystic Class High-Tier Sword Intent. This meant that Li Fuchen was already on a different level from them. Bu Qingsong was speechless and immediately let out a bitter smile. To think that he wanted to defeat Li Fuchen before the competition. It was simply a pipe dream. In the audience seats, the inner sect disciples might be confused, but it didn't stop them from understanding the power of Li Fuchen's sword move. Even someone as formidable as Qin Yuanhu was instantly defeated by this sword move. It was imaginable that this sword move must have reached an extremely high level. This child's perception is unprecedented in our Azure Water sect. One of the supreme elders praised. Indeed. Ouyang Wentian nodded. At the side, Zhao Wujin was smiling till his eyes were squinted. He might have some guesses beforehand, but when his guesses became reality, he was still shocked. Mystic Class High-Tier Sword Intent, huh? Zhao Mingyue's eyes were extremely bright. She couldn't imagine how Li Fuchen comprehended a Mystic Class High-Tier Sword Intent. She herself couldn't even comprehend a Mystic Class Mid-Tier Sword Intent. As Li Fuchen defeated Qin Yuanhu, the top 4 and top 2 were already decided. But a tournament was still a tournament. Even if the rest of the tournament was meaningless, it still had to be carried out to the end. What's more, in everyone's eyes, the upcoming tournament was probably the most meaningful. Because Sword Demon Li Fuchen and Sword Maniac Li Xiangru were about to battle. These two individuals could be said to be the Azure Water sect's rare sword Dao prodigies. The battle between the two of them would decide who was the Azure Water sect's youth generation's king. On the contest stage, Li Xiangru and Li Fuchen stood 10 meters apart. Li Xiangru had a calm expression and didn't have a grave expression just because Li Fuchen comprehended a Mystic Class High-Tier Sword Intent. Li Fuchen's eyes flashed with a trace of astonishment as he thought of something. Li Shidi, I originally thought that no one could force me to use my ultimate ability. From the looks of it now, you are the only one. Li Xiangru said indifferently. Li Fuchen replied, Li Shixiang, please enlighten me. Receive my move. Li Xiangru didn't hold back and unsheathed his black gold sword. The sword chi was like a torrent as it burst out at Li Fuchen. That instant sword intent was so intense that the spectators behind Li Fuchen felt their scalp go numb and felt as though they couldn't breathe. Mystic Class High-Tier Sword Intent. Another Mystic Class High-Tier Sword Intent. The sword art that Li Xiangru executed was actually the Mystic Class High-Tier Torrent Sword style. Its sword intent was naturally the Torrent Sword Intent. After spending half a year in the Mystic Martial Hidden Domain, it was impossible for Li Xiangru to not have any gains. Not only did he create the third Mystic Class Mid-Tier Kill move, he also comprehended the Torrent Sword Intent. Sincere to the sword, infatuated with the sword. No wonder he is the sword maniac. On the rostrum, Ouyang Wentian and the others' eyes lit up. They were shocked that Li Fuchen comprehended a Mystic Class High-Tier Sword Intent. They were equally shocked that Li Xiangru comprehended a Mystic Class High-Tier Sword Intent. Li Fuchen seems to be in danger. Right now, Even Zhao Wujin was frowning. Both of them comprehended a mystic-class high-tier sword intent, but Li Xiangru's cultivation was at the 9th level of the Earth Realm, while Li Fuchen was only at the 6th level of the Earth Realm. The difference of 3 levels wasn't so easy to make up for. Chapter 280. With his powerful awareness, Li Fuchen was able to easily see the flaws in Li Xiangru's sword art. Apart from that, Li Xiangru's torrent sword intent was only at the initial stage, while Li Fuchen's blaze devil sword intent was at the matured stage. With the two of them stacking together, it was enough to make up for the difference of 3 levels. Li Xiangru's brows lifted. How could he, who was obsessed with the sword, not know that Li Fuchen's every sword move was targeted at the flaws of his sword art? It was truly unimaginable. One must know that Li Xiangru was confident that even if he were to face a heaven realm martial artist, his flaws wouldn't be seen through. Is this the reason why he was accepted as a pro-disciple by the first odd warrior? Li Xiangru immediately recalled the test of awareness in the mystic martial hidden domain. It was obvious that Li Fuchen's awareness had already reached an extremely horrific stage. Li Fuchen's awareness was much more horrific than what Li Xiangru had imagined. But no matter how horrific the awareness was, the body had to keep up. Right now, Li Fuchen's awareness was powerful, but his body couldn't keep up. Otherwise, a single blade would have been enough to defeat or even kill Li Xiangru. Ocean Rapids. Li Xiangru burst out with the finishing move of the torrential sword style. The violent sword chi was like a turbulent long river, slashing at Li Fuchen from all angles. Fiery devil-killing shadow. With a burst of scarlet-red light, Li Fuchen executed the finishing move of the blaze devil sword art. Boom boom boom. The sword chi collided with each other, and a terrifying shockwave tore the martial stage apart. Too strong. Just the aftermath of the sword chi is enough to shatter my body. A true disciple was dumbfounded. Li Fuchen stood on a protruding piece of wreckage of the martial stage. His chi presence might not be as boundless as the sword maniac, but it was filled with absolute sharpness. On a slightly shorter piece of wreckage, Li Xiangru's mouth was overflowing with blood. In the clash of ultimate moves, he had lost by half a level. The opponent's awareness was too sharp, and the sword chi was all-pervasive, breaking through his defense. Seeing this scene, how could everyone not know that Li Fuchen had the upper hand? At this moment, everyone's emotions surged. It was as if they were watching a king of the sword rise up with great strength. No one could stop him. A new legend has been born. Chen Fanghua murmured. In the past, sword maniac Li Xiangru was a legend. Right now, Li Fuchen was a new legend. He's too dazzling. Wu Qingmei whispered. Gao Changtian nodded. Indeed, Li Fuchen's rise was too rapid, so rapid that they didn't know how to express their feelings. Not too long ago, they were still on the same level. Unknowingly, Li Fuchen had already left everyone behind and stepped onto the peak of the mountain alone. It was a sad thing to be his opponent. As for being his friend, it was a very bitter thing. If they couldn't keep up with him, who could be his opponent? Who could be his friend? Even if they were friends, they would only be ordinary friends. It was lonely at the top. True experts were always lonely. I wonder if Li Fuchen has tasted this kind of loneliness. If this child has a 5-star bone frame, when he reaches the pinnacle, no one in the East Unicorn continent will be a match. The oldest Supreme Elder was full of admiration and pity. A 1-star bone frame was ultimately still lacking. Furthermore, with such perception and a 5-star bone frame, wouldn't it be like adding wings to a tiger? Ouyang Wendian said, perhaps a miracle might happen to him. In the East Unicorn continent, since ancient times, no one had ever heard of a 1-star bone frame entering the reincarnation realm. It was only during the era where absolute experts were abundant that someone with a 3-star bone frame entered the reincarnation realm. Furthermore, it was said that that person obtained a heaven-defying opportunity. Listening to their conversation, Zhao Wujin thought to himself, Li Fuchen, how far can you go? On the shattered contest stage, Li Fuchen and Li Xiangru exchanged moves again. This time, Li Fuchen had an even greater advantage. Because Li Fuchen used his movement technique. In terms of sword Dao, Li Xiangru and Li Fuchen were extremely close. But in terms of other martial Daoists, Li Xiangru wasn't just one level inferior to Li Fuchen. After over a dozen moves, Li Xiangru vomited blood and retreated. Under Li Fuchen's severe attacks, it was already very difficult for him to withstand over a dozen moves. Let's end this battle here. Victor, Li Fuchen. With Ouyang Wentian's indication, Zhao Wujin stood up. Be it Li Fuchen or Li Xiangru, they were both the Azure Water sect's main force for the stars ranking, and it wouldn't be good if any of them were to be injured. Furthermore, how could they not see that Li Xiangru had already gone all out, while Li Fuchen seemed to be at ease and had yet to reveal his trump card? Senior Li Fuchen 1. Becoming the sect's first true disciple at the age of 20 is unprecedented. I'm already 30 years old, and I'm still an inner sect disciple. Comparisons are odious. The audience was in an uproar. 20 years old was the maximum age for an outer sect disciple to become an inner sect disciple. If one wasn't able to become an inner sect disciple by the age of 20, it was basically impossible to become an inner sect disciple in this lifetime. But Li Fuchen, at the age of 20, became the #1 direct disciple. In the following matches, Li Fuchen defeated Xue Feng, Chen Yuan who defeated Bu Qingsong, and Li Xiangru defeated Bu Qingsong. At this point, 4 candidates were born. They were Li Fuchen, Li Xiangru, Chen Yuanhu, and Xue Feng. The first 2 were Li Fuchen and Li Xiangru. These 2 star stones are the rewards for the 2 of you. Use them well. As the sect selection tournament ended, Zhao Wujin waved his hand and shot 2 star stones at Li Fuchen and Li Xiangru. After receiving the star stones, Li Fuchen and Li Xiangru cupped their hands and thanked. The star stone was very mystical. No matter where you were, once you crushed it, you would immediately be teleported to the Star Road hidden domain. It wasn't restricted by the spatial zone. As time flowed, 3 days had passed since the sect selection tournament. During these 3 days, no matter which corner it was, there would be people discussing about the sect selection tournament that happened 3 days ago. #1 direct disciple, Li Fuchen. Sword demon, Li Fuchen. Azure Water Sword Sun, Li Fuchen. The topic of discussion was naturally Li Fuchen. Seeing was believing. No matter how brilliant Li Fuchen was on the outside, it was all just hearsay. No one knew if there was any exaggeration in between. In comparison, they would rather believe their own eyes. At the same time, the Heaven Fiend sect, Spirit Hidden sect, and Violent Saber sect had all ended their sect selection tournament. Similar to the Azure Water sect, the 3 major sects only had 4 slots each. Among the 4 slots for the Heaven Fiend sect, Yan Qinggu was impressively in the list. What's more, Yan Qinggu was the same as Li Fuchen. She broke the Heaven Fiend sect's record and became the youngest #1 direct disciple in the history of the Heaven Fiend sect. In comparison, Yan Qinggu was even younger as she was only 18 years old this year. A 6-star bone frame was the most persuasive at any time. If a sect had to choose between Li Fuchen and a 6-star bone frame, most of the sects would probably choose the 6-star bone frame. It was already late at night. Li Fuchen crushed the star stone in his hand and instantly entered the Star Road hidden domain. The only things that restricted him now were time and cultivation. Time was something that no one could force. But there were plenty of ways to compensate for cultivation. The Star Road hidden domain was definitely the method that had the least side effects. I wonder which stage of the Star Road I can pass this time. Chapter 281. The first stage, the second stage, all the way until the 4th stage, Li Fuchen didn't waste much effort and easily passed through. It was only on the 5th Star Road that he felt slightly pressured. After all, this Star Road was his limit back then. After passing the 5th stage, Li Fuchen arrived at the 6th Star Road. At the 6th Star Road, Li Fuchen didn't walk for long before he was pressed down and teleported out of the Star Road hidden domain. This time, Li Fuchen could feel that the pressure was reduced by half. It seemed that the second time he ventured into the Star Road hidden domain would be much easier. Furthermore, Li Fuchen's cultivation had also increased by 1 level. The horrific Star Road chi field pressured Li Fuchen. After spending a long time, Li Fuchen arrived at the 6th isolated island, which was also the location of the 6th stage. To Li Fuchen's surprise, the 6th stage didn't have any tests. The moment he arrived, 32 portions of Star Road energy descended from the starry sky and poured into Li Fuchen's body. Feeling the boundless Star Road energy within his body, Li Fuchen thought to himself, the 6th stage has 32 portions of Star Road energy. The 7th stage has 64 portions of Star Road energy. I reckon it should be enough for me to break through to the 7th level of the Earth realm. If one utilized too much of the Star Road's power, the body would develop resistance. Li Fuchen had already relied on the Star Road's power to directly increase his cultivation level by 2 levels and indirectly increase his cultivation level by 1 level. If he wanted to continue breaking through, the consumption of the Star Road's power would undoubtedly be massive. Of course, the prerequisite was for Li Fuchen to pass the 7th stage. If not, the current Star Road power wasn't enough for Li Fuchen to break through to the 7th level of the Earth realm. Arriving at the 7th Star Road, the horrific Star Road chi field made Li Fuchen's heart flutter. What a terrifying place! Li Fuchen felt as though he had arrived at the darkest place. Had it not been for his powerful spirit will, his spirit would have collapsed and he would have been teleported out of the Star Road hidden domain. Perhaps after experiencing the baptism of the 6th mystic martial door, Li Fuchen realized that his endurance was much stronger. When he was halfway through the journey, he was still able to persist and didn't reach his limits. When he was about to reach the 7th island, he finally reached his limit. Sweat poured down like rain. Both his body and spirit were close to their limits. With every step, Li Fuchen felt as though a day had passed and it was extremely arduous. Bang! The 7th isolated island was just within reach. Li Fuchen took a single step and landed on the island with a dull thud. With the pressure gone, Li Fuchen held his knees with both hands and gasped heavily. As expected of the 7th Star Road. It's so difficult. After a while, Li Fuchen just slowed down. Arriving at the center of the lone island, Li Fuchen's Star Road energy surged with the support of 64 portions of Star Road energy. Alright. Li Fuchen's eyes lit up. The energy of the Star Road allowed him to sense the bottleneck in advance. Right now, with his senses, the bottleneck of the 7th level of the Earth realm was like a thin piece of paper that could be broken with a single poke. Li Fuchen immediately sat cross-legged and began to revolve the 16th rank True Inferno technique. After consuming a large number of elixirs, Li Fuchen's cultivation was climbing steadily. Later stage of the 6th level of the Earth realm, peak stage of the 6th level of the Earth realm, and the limits of the 6th level of the Earth realm. It was fortunate that Li Fuchen had a large number of elixirs with him. There were plenty of elixirs that could increase chi. Otherwise, just the Star Road energy wouldn't be enough to break through. The power of the Star Road was similar to the power of one's state of mind. It could only enhance a martial artist's mental state. Boom! Not knowing how many elixirs he consumed, Li Fuchen's cultivation finally broke through to the 7th level of the Earth realm. Not only did his chi quantity increase by a huge margin, but his chi quality had also increased by a huge margin. At the Earth realm, there was a huge gap between each level. At the Heavenly Dipper realm, the gap between each stage was even greater. It was said that once one reached the Reincarnation realm, the difficulty of skipping levels to battle would increase to an unimaginable degree. Take the Azure Water sect for example. The Supreme Elder's cultivation was only at the 3rd level of Reincarnation realm, while the sect Patriarch Ouyang Wenin was at the 2nd level of Reincarnation realm, the Protector was at the 1st level of Reincarnation realm, and there wasn't a single 4th level Reincarnation realm martial artist. This was also one of the reasons why the Azure Water sect was weaker than the Heaven Fiend sect. The Heaven Fiend sect had an existence at the 4th level of Reincarnation realm. When Li Fuchen was challenging the Star Road hidden domain, Li Xianxia had already exited the Star Road hidden domain. His cultivation had actually broken through from the 9th level of the Earth realm to the peak level of the Earth realm, making his ability even more robust. At their level, any improvement in any aspect was rare and precious. If the current Li Xianxia was to fight with the Li Fuchen from the sect selection tournament, without using the Black Iron Sword essence, Li Fuchen would have to burst out with the Mystic class high-tier kill move, Blaze Dragon, in order to contest with Li Xiangru. It was still unknown if he could defeat Li Xiangru. Of course, the reason why Li Xiangru was able to break through to the peak level of the Earth realm so easily was mainly because he had previously used the Star Road energy to advance by 1 level, which indirectly increased his cultivation by 1 level. After all, not everyone was like Li Fuchen, who was able to pass the 5th stage on his first attempt at the Star Road hidden domain and obtain so much Star Road energy. Arriving at the 8th segment of the Star Road, Li Fuchen felt an unprecedented pressure. The chi field of the Star Road was so powerful that it felt like a substance. At that moment, it felt as though there was a boundless viscous energy descending and enveloping Li Fuchen. After walking 100 steps, Li Fuchen couldn't hold on any longer and was teleported out of the Star Road hidden domain and back to his courtyard. This Star Road hidden domain is much more horrific than the Mystic Martial hidden domain. It is a complete test of limits. Li Fuchen sighed. The 7th level of the Earth realm is still a little lacking. Next up, I need to increase my sword intent in front of the sword monument. Li Fuchen wasn't arrogant enough to think that he was invincible in the Stars ranking tournament. Putting aside his innate talent and perception, just in terms of cultivation level, he was far too lacking. By then, most of the elite contestants in the Stars ranking tournament would probably be at the 9th level of the Earth realm. The 7th level of the Earth realm would definitely be at the bottom of the bottom. What's more, above the 9th level of the Earth realm, there was still the peak level of the Earth realm and the half-step heaven realm. The so-called half-step heaven realm meant that one was already half a step into the heaven realm and was just lacking time. Of course, there were some who intentionally restricted their cultivation to the half-step heaven realm, in order to avoid stepping into the heaven realm too early and losing the qualifications to participate in the Stars ranking tournament. It was a known fact that there were great benefits in participating in the Stars ranking tournament. Everyone who was ranked in the Stars ranking would be rewarded with a Star Stone. The top 72, top 36, top 10, top 3, and first place would have even more rewards. Since sword maniac Li Xiangru had comprehended a mystic class high-tier sword intent, Li Fuchen didn't think that others wouldn't be able to comprehend a mystic class high-tier sword intent. He was afraid that there would be plenty of people who comprehended a mystic class high-tier sword intent. By then, his advantage would be very small. Arriving at the Sword Monument Canyon, Li Fuchen immediately began to wholeheartedly comprehend the sword intent. Welcome to Legends of Cultivation, audiobooks, where we bring ancient fantasy to life through storytelling. Follow the rise of heroes who defy fate, unlock mystical powers, and battle across celestial realms. Our audiobooks are crafted for fans of Chinese cultivation novels, filled with battles, breakthroughs, and legendary artifacts. Subscribe and be part of an unforgettable journey into the realm of immortality.